Assalamualaikum to our lecturer, Dr. Muhammad HANIF bin Abu Hassan. Today, our group will present to you about Islamic Exchange Traded Fund iETF. Before we started, we will introduce ourselves first.
In the world where technologies are getting more advanced every year with new innovative inventions, ideas and concepts that pushes every aspect to its limits. Specifically in the world of finance, it is always believed that there are always new products or services that will be introduced to the customers. Therefore, innovation should be their top priority to make financial institutions such as banks stand out with their own product. We also need to take in mind that along with the finance, Islamic finance also is keeping up with the products or services that are widely accepted by many, not only the Muslims. We can clearly assume that Islamic finance is slowly climbing up the ranks in the terms of products and services to make sure that Muslims and also non-Muslim users can use the products or services as efficient and effective as possible. One of the products that will be discussed is Sharia compliant exchange traded funds, or in short iETFs. Generally, exchange traded funds is an ingenious financial product that lists the index tracking funds that is built like a unit trust scheme or any other structures that are approved by many, where the ultimate objective is to achieve significant return that correlate with the particular index's performance. To understand more precisely, ETF is where the trading and listing of an actual unit trust in the stock exchange. The idea is ETF is managed passively because the purpose of ETF is try to imitate the performance of specific market index using strategies like full replication or strategic sampling. In order for the exchange traded funds to become Sharia compliant exchange traded funds, there are some processes that need to be done, where iETF only track the criterion on index from companies that adhere with the Sharia compliance. iETF is managed strictly as this thorough management is required to avoid anything that is prohibited by the Sharia passes through the product. Sharia board, committee or advisor overseeing the operation of iETF and the parties involved in the administration of the process will conduct Sharia compliant reviews and audit every once in a while. Any index or fund will be investigated, will go through a detailed Sharia screening process before a qualified iETF is produced.
I will present about features of Islamic exchange traded funds. What makes an iETF an attractive proposition to investors is the exposure it offers to an index or basket of companies in the form of a single unit or share. An Islamic mutual fund product known as the Islamic exchange traded funds is a pooled investment agreement with participation units that are traded on the stock exchange, much the same as stocks. Islamic ETFs are a selection of assets chosen by the investment manager for a particular purpose, just like Islamic mutual funds. There are 5 features of Islamic exchange traded funds. First is diversification. iETF provide immediate market diversification and access to various market segments. Islamic ETF are a sort of Islamic mutual fund, and as such, they include a variety of Islamic companies. Instead of concentrating on a small number of Islamic stocks, it aids investors in portfolio diversification. Second is transparency. Throughout the trading day, iETFs are easily accessible in real time and offer a transparent pricing structure. The website of the fund manager has further detailed and up-to-date information about the iETF, such as the quarterly manager report and daily fund value. At the end of each day of the exchange, the Islamic ETF portfolio's composition can be searched by investors. Next is flexibility. iETF offer flexibility in trading. Through participating brokers and investment firms, investors may purchase and sell Islamic ETF at any time and from any location. An Islamic ETF portfolio's asset class can consist of stocks, sukuk, or combination of them. However, the only Islamic ETF currently on the market are those that use Islamic stocks as their asset class. Fourth is cost-effective. Islamic ETF management costs are generally less than those of mutual funds. Since most ETFs are passively managed, they are able to charge lower management costs than many of the actively managed mutual funds since they use fewer resources. Due to this, iETF is a cost-effective long-term investment. Last feature is simplicity. A single share of an ETF can be compared to a holding in each stock in the underlying index.
Now, I will continue about the Sharia principle that is used in iETF. To make sure that Sharia principle and Sharia compliant investing rules are followed, the Sharia principle used in iETF are thoroughly investigated. As a result, the Sharia board oversees the operation of an iETF, and a team of advisors regularly audits and examines the process to maintain the best standards. All funds must undergo the Sharia screening process in accordance with the procedures outlined by the Sharia Advisory Council of the Securities Commission Malaysia in order to be eligible for the iETF. An iETF must be periodically monitored in the event of any substantial corporate developments, including mergers and acquisition, delisting, and even bankruptcy. Purification is another step in the screening and monitoring process. Before donating money to charity, it must be purified by locating and isolating Sharia incompatible income. The definition of iETF and conventional ETF are actually the same. However, the index component of the company, where each procedure and structure must go by rules established by the Securities Commission Sharia body, which distinguishes the iETF and conventional ETF. Even though iETF and conventional ETF use some of the same benchmark, iETF portfolio exhibit lower levels of volatility and risk than those of conventional ETF. Lastly, in order to ensure that they adhere to Sharia standards and principles, transactions for iETF operations must go through the standard Sharia committee process, which includes strict examination and inspection. Therefore, iETF has a fantastic potential to promote Malaysia as a global center for Islamic finance through such a mechanism.
Now I will present about the main difference between conventional ETF and Islamic ETF. The main difference between a conventional ETF and a Sharia compliant ETF is the benchmark index that the Islamic ETF tracks. A Sharia compliant ETF is managed under the Sharia principles and guidelines and overseen by a Sharia advisor or committee. As a result, like any other Islamic investment, an ETF is subject to periodic Sharia audit and review. The ETFs which buy broad-based equities need to purify their returns. A fund should undergo a comprehensive Sharia screening exercise before it can be qualified as an iETF. The screening of the index constituents is done in accordance to the methodology prescribed by the Sharia board, committee or advisor of the index provider, the regulatory body and the fund itself. To ensure the continuous Sharia compliance, the Sharia screening is undertaken at the time of investment decision and subsequently throughout the investment period. The aforementioned periodic monitoring for Sharia compliance thus takes into account any corporate actions like merger and acquisition, delisting or bankruptcy. The iETF is consequently purified from time to time by identifying, separating and donating to charity any Sharia non-compliant income. Conventional ETF offer managed size and portfolio replication through securities borrowing and lending, which means SBL, whereas most Sharia compliant ETF that have been established in Singapore, Turkey, and Luxembourg replicate the portfolio through the outright purchase of the required securities. The SC Malaysia, however, has taken the view that a Sharia-compliant version of SBL is needed for Sharia-compliant ETF to operate well. This is because when the ETF is created, the participating dealers do not have the underlying securities readily available. In the conventional market, securities could be borrowed with interest. In Malaysia, a Sharia-compliant equivalent to an SBL has been developed without the interest element. This achievement has not been replicated elsewhere.
Next, we go to the case study. For the case study, I will present to you about the Sharia issue of gold-based iETF investment listed on Bursa Malaysia. This case study was written by the researcher from the Academy of Islamic Studies, University of Malaya, Malaysia. The objective of this case study is to identify the concept of gold iETF from a Sharia perspective and identify Sharia parameter as well as Sharia issue related to the gold iETF. As a result of the study, the researcher found that gold iETF is a new exchange-traded fund product introduced in Malaysia in late 2017, where it used gold and silver as basic investment asset based on Sharia principle. Asian society have taught us the use of gold and the importance of gold as a transaction tool. The fact is, due to the change of the time, the use of the gold has been manipulated in the form of investment even without using the physical properties of gold itself. In the concept of investment, gold is used as a hedging tool against any definite and uncertain risk, and that is the problem that is studied by the researcher from a Sharia perspective, where gold is a ribawi item. The concept of the gold iETF investment is that investor buy stock based on the value of the gold instead of physically using gold and silver such as bullion as an underlying asset based on the Sharia principle. But it is clear that Islam does not prohibit trading activities that involve gold as a commodity as long as it does not involve the element of riba. This can be understood through the words of Allah in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 275. Allah permits trading and forbid riba. Based on the words of Allah just now, it is clear that investing in gold is a current trend that has the potential to gain extraordinary profit and should be based on the principle of Sharia that have been set in Islam because gold and silver are ribawi items. Meanwhile, from the point of view of Islamic scholar, there are many disagreements from Islamic thinker about gold as an investment commodity, where gold is considered to have al-tamaniyah value. Whereas, according to the point of view of fiqh, the Sharia allows it and there is no obstacle to buy gold at a low price with the intentions of selling it at a high price, as long as it adheres to the principle of buying and selling gold outlined by the Sharia. Ibn Uthaymeen also issued a similar fatwa that practice of buying and selling gold is permissible and the practice of storing gold and waiting until the high price for sale is permissible, provided it does not violate Sharia principles. Therefore, to ensure the trading fund are Sharia compliant, each insurer or fund owner must follow the guidelines set by the appointed Sharia Council of Security Commission, which must follow Sharia rules on trading of ribawi-based item. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
To conclude everything that has been discussed, it is an accepted fact that Islamic finance has gone head-to-head with the conventional finance, mainly on product and services, as the quality is on par and the users, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, were very happy and satisfied with the products and services offered to them. It is amazing to see that Islamic finance is accepted by many, has come to many improvements and innovation that put Islamic finance in the global level. The reason that it is amazing because the Western society always discriminate when it comes to anything that is related to Islam, or because of bad perception since 9/11 tragedy. But now they are mostly accepting Islamic finance as it has some benefits that overpower the conventional ones. With every innovation in Islamic finance, it is believed that there are always room for improvement because we cannot be so confident with the current products or services because the competitors will try their best to pull Islamic finance down in ranking. In the scope of iETF, the creation of this kind of financial product has eased the Muslim users that want to contribute and dive in the world of trading because there are a lot of platforms such as Forex, but it is not permissible in Islam, so Muslims might be in danger if they dive into unknown platform to earn passive income, as the income received is haram and might endanger the entire bloodline if they eat using that kind of income. The presence of iETF has created new choice for the users to diversify their income while adhering the Sharia compliance as a true Muslim.